Everybody, welcome back to the heaviest show in the universe. Today we are reviewing Trivium's brand new album, In the Court of the Dragon. Is it a banger? Let's find out. Trivium is from Florida, and they started out in around 1999 and released their first album in 2003. That album was pretty metalcore. But after that album, they started to experiment with more. They incorporated a bit more thrash and a bit more traditional heavy metal and sometimes even more progressive elements into their music, totally throwing away that full-on metalcore label that people tend to give them. And that includes myself as well. When I was a kid, I strayed away from Trivium. And I strayed away from Trivium for the longest time because I was an elitist fuckhead and I thought that Trivium was metalcore poser crap. But that all changed a few years back when the song In Waves somehow landed on one of my playlists on Spotify and I was just hooked. What had I been doing all these years ignoring Trivium, following this elitist logic that somehow Trivium was poser bullshit? And even if they were a metalcore band, they're still really, really good. Just because something's metalcore doesn't mean it's terrible. There's tons of good metalcore out there, but that's for a different video. These guys definitely are way more than a metalcore band. In fact, they haven't been just metalcore for years and years and years. They incorporate all types of music. They are playing just a metal band, and a great one at that. That being said, let's get to the music. Let's get one thing straight right off the bat. The riffs in this album are fantastic. Trivium is always able to write fantastic riffs. Matt Heafy is always able to put out riff after riff after riff. He's able to incorporate influences from all over metal. He takes thrash and he takes metalcore, and even occasionally he adds a little dash of death metal in there. When Trivium wants to put blast beats in their music, it's sick. It sounds absolutely fantastic, especially when he layers it with his clean vocal style, which is absolutely on point. In spite of all the hate behind his eyes, I've seen it only one. Matt Heafy is definitely one of the most talented and best and most consistent vocalists in metal today. He doesn't have a bad performance under his belt. I absolutely love the way, especially in this album, he goes from clean to growled to heavier vocals. He does such a good job at it, and it never feels forced. It always flows from one to the other, and they're all placed exceptionally well. I wouldn't say he growls so much as he incorporates more of a raspy, dirtier metalcore type of heavier vocals, while his clean vocals are standard heavy metal clean vocals that sound absolutely on point. And while both Matt Heafy and Corey Bailu do a fantastic job on this album, trading riff and solo back and forth, we can't forget about the drum performance. Ever since Alex Bent has come into this band in 2017, he has consistently played exceptionally well with Trivium, providing an element to their music that makes it really pop. When you go back and listen to albums like In Waves, the drums, they don't necessarily pop nearly as well as they have on the last 3 albums with him there. And he played in technical death metal band Brain Drill, which is just the epitome of not very good technical death metal, but it requires an immense amount of skill and speed and timing. I'll give it that, and he adds that element to that band. Songwriting on this album is fantastic from beginning to end. There's not a bad song on this album by any means at all. There's better songs, but that's completely normal. Every single song is written very well, and just about every single chorus on this song is catchy. It wants you to sing along, it pulls you in, and it is layered so well within the rest of the music. I mean, just listen to some of these choruses, and even on your first listen through, you're gonna be shoving your fist in the air singing along with these absolute beauties. Rip yourself to pieces, you'll drive yourself insane in the shadow of the abyss fire. Hefe does a very good job of taking his influences from metalcore and especially thrash and mixing them all around. So you'll have a fantastic typical metalcore riff and it'll boom switch right into an awesome fantastic thrash riff. This really shows Trivium's unique sound in this genre. And a song like In the Shadow of the Abattoir definitely adds a unique element to the music. And so there's kind of a medieval theme throughout this album, and you can see that in the name of some of the songs. You can see that in the album artwork as well. But the medieval influence of this album really hits you in the song In the Shadow of the Abattoir with that intro riff. It sounds like it's a Dorian scale, very medieval style. It hits you and you absorb it really well. So first off, I was praising the instruments a lot. I was praising the sound and the production of the drums and the guitars, but the bass gets lost. And the bass, when you do hear it, it has a fantastic tone. It's very heavy, it's very drudging, and it adds to the music when everything else is going on, but you can't make it out and you can't really hear it, which is a problem that happens in metal often. But when you hear a fantastic album like this, you kind of wish that the bass was a bit more present. But as the rest of the music is playing, you don't really get to absorb it as much, and it's a little disappointing because I feel like if they tuned back a bit of their mids, you would be able to absorb the bass a lot more, and it would really add another element to this album. The song structure as well can tend to be a little predictable. It's not too detrimental, but as the album went along, I could kind of tell what was coming next. I could kind of tell where the riffs were going, and I could tell how the song was going to stop and start and end, and when the choruses were coming, when the bridges and the build-ups and the verses were coming as well. I could feel it and I could sense it. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but it took a bit of the element of enjoyment away from this album, especially comparing it to the other fantastic albums that I've reviewed lately, like Wallflowers by Ginger and The Work by Rivers of Now, where those guys were playing with unconventional song structures and adding more to their music. When I listen to Trivium, and especially this album, it doesn't really add as much as those albums did. And even what the Dead Men Say from 2020, their previous album, the song structures in there were a little more unpredictable than this one. I would have liked to see them add a few more progressive elements like they did on the last album. I felt like this one was just straight to the point. Every song was following the same structure. Overall, I didn't really feel like this added anything new to their sound. I just felt like it was a good Trivium album, and it sounded like Trivium, and they continued on being Trivium as opposed to trying something new, adding new elements to their sound, and kind of playing it safe. They played it safe on this album, but that doesn't mean they didn't write amazing songs here. Adding up the scores of each individual track and dividing by the number of tracks on the album, we come to a final score of 8.1 out of 10, which puts it just barely in the S tier banger category. This album was a lot of fun. The instrumentation was fantastic. The production was on point. It sounds fantastic from beginning to end, and the choruses were so much fun, and there were fantastic solos and drum fills riddled throughout this album. What did you think of this album? I can't wait to hear what you have to say down below in the comments. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Are you somewhere in the middle? And did you think this was better than What the Dead Men Say? Can't wait to hear what you have to say down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to go down below, sauce me one of these, smash that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you never, ever, ever miss a video. And I will see you next week on the heaviest show in the universe. Long live metal.